Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Chapter 20. Silver's Embassy. Sure enough, there were two men just outside the stockade, one of them waving a white cloth, the other, no less a person than Silver himself, standing placidly by. It was still quite early, in the coldest morning that I think I was ever abroad in, a chill that pierced into the marrow. The sky was bright and cloudless overhead, and the tops of the trees shone rosily in the sun. But where Silver stood with his lieutenant was all still in a shadow, and they waded knee-deep in a low white vapor that had crawled during the night out of the morass. The chill and the vapor taken together told a poor tale of the island. It was plainly a damp, feverish, unhealthy spot. "Keep indoors, men," said the captain. 10 to 1, this is the trick. Then he hailed the buccaneer. "Who goes? Stand or fire?" "Flag of truce!" cried Silver. The captain was in the porch, keeping himself carefully out of the way of the treacherous shot, should any be intended. He turned and spoke to us. "Doctor's watch on the lookout, Dr. Livesey. Take the north side, if you please, Jim. The east, Gray the west. The watch below. All hands to load muskets. Lively, men, and careful." And then he turned against the mutineers, and, "What do you want with your flag of truce?" he cried. This time it was the other man who replied. "Captain Silver, sir, to come on board and make terms," he shouted. "Captain Silver! Don't know him. Who is he?" cried the captain. We could all hear him adding to himself, "Captain, is it? My heart, and here's promotion." Long John answered for himself. "Me, sir. These poor lads haven't chosen me a captain. After your desertion, sir," laying a particular emphasis on the word desertion, "we are willing to submit, if we can come to terms, and no bones about it. All I ask is your word, Captain Smollett, to let me safe and sound out of your stockade, in 1 minute to get shot before a gun is fired." "My man," said Captain Smollett, "I have not the slightest desire to talk to you. If you wish to talk to me, you can come, that's all. If there's any treachery, it'll be on your side, and the Lord help you." "That's enough, Captain," shouted Long John cheerily. "A word from you is enough. I know a gentleman, and you may lay to that." We could see the man who carried the flag of truce attempting to hold Silver back. Not that it was wonderful, seeing how cavalier had been the captain's answer. But Silver laughed at him aloud, and slapped him on the back, as if the idea of alarm had been absurd. Then he advanced to the stockade, threw over his crutch, got a leg up with great vigour and skill, succeeded in surmounting the fence and dropping safely to the other side. I will confess that I was far too much taken up with what was going on to be of the slightest use as a sentry. Indeed, I had already deserted my eastern loophole, and crept up behind the captain, who was now seated himself on the threshold, with his elbows on his knees, his head on his hands, and his eyes fixed on the water, as it bubbled out of old iron kettle in the sand. He was whistling to himself, "Come, lads and lads." Silver had terrible hard work getting up the knoll. What with the steepness of the incline, the thick tree stumps, and the soft sand, he and his crutch were as helpless as the ship in stays. But he stuck to it like a man in silence, and at last arrived before the captain, whom he saluted in the handsomest style. He was tricked in his best, an immense blue coat, thick with brass buttons, and hung as low to his knees, and a fine laced hat was set on the back of his head. "Here you are, my man," said the captain, raising his head. "You had better sit down." "I ain't a-goin' to let me inside, captain," complained Long John. "It's a man cold morning, to be sure, sir, to sit outside upon the sand." "Why, Silver," said the captain, "if you had pleased to be an honest man, you might have been sitting in your galley. It is your own doing. You're either my ship's cook, then you were treated handsome, or Captain Silver, a common mutineer and a pirate. Then you can go hang." "Well, well, Captain," returned the sea cook, sitting down as he was bidden on sand, "you'll have to give me a hand up again, that's all. A sweet pretty place you have it here. Ah, there's Jim. Top of the morning to you, Jim. Doctor here's my service. Well, there you all are together like a happy family, in the manner of speaking. If you have anything to say, my man, better say it, said the captain. Right you were, Captain Smollett, replied Silver. Duty is duty, to be sure. Well, now, you look here. That was a good lay of yours last night. I don't not deny that it was a good lay. And some of you pretty handy with a spike end. And I'll not deny either, but what took some of my people was shook. Maybe all was shook. Maybe I was shook myself. But that was why I'm here for terms. But you mark me, Captain. It won't do twice, by thunder. We'll have to do sentry go, and ease off a point or so on the rum. And maybe you think we're all in a sheet in this wind's eye. But I'm tell you I was sober. I was only dog tired. If I awoke a second sooner I would have caught you in the act. I would. He wasn't dead when I got round to him. Not he. Well? Said Captain Smollett, as cool as can be. All that Silver said was a riddle to him, but you never had to guess it from his tone. As for me, I began to have an inkling. Ben Gunn's last words came back to my mind. I began to suppose that he had paid the buccaneers a visit while they lay drunk together around their fire. I reckoned up with glee that we only had 14 enemies to deal with. Well, here it is, Silver said Silver. You want that treasure, and we'll have it. That's our point. You would just as soon save your lives, I reckon, and that's yours. You have a chart, haven't you? Oh, that's maybe, replied the captain. Oh, well, you have, I know that, returned Long John. You needn't be so husky with a man. There ain't a particle of service in that, you may lay to it. And what I mean is, we want your chart. Now, I mean no, meant to you no harm myself. That won't do to me, my man, interrupted the captain. We know exactly what you mean to do, and we don't care. For now, you see, you can't do it. And the captain looked at him calmly and proceeded to fill a pipe. If Abe's Gray, Silver broke out. Avast there, cried Smollett. Gray told me nothing, and I asked him nothing. And what's more to see you and him in this whole island blazes first. So there's my mind to you, my man, on that. This little whiff of temper seemed to cool Silver down, and he had been growing nettled before, but now he pulled himself together. Like enough, I would set no limits to see what a gentleman might consider shipshape or not, as in the case were, and seeing how you were about to take a pipe, Captain, I make it so free like it as do I likewise. And he filled a pipe and lighted it, and the two men sat silently smoking for quite a while, looking at each other in the face, not now stopping their tobacco and leaning forward to spit. It was as good as the play to see them. Now, resumed Silver, here it is. You guess the chart, and get the treasure by, and drop shooting poor seamen, and stoving off their heads in while asleep. And you do that, we'll offer you a choice. Either you come aboard along us, or the treasure is shipped. Then I'll give you my affidavit, upon my word of honor, to clap you somewhere safe ashore. Or, if that ain't to your fancy, some of my hands being rough, and having old scores on account of hazing, then you can stay here, you can. We'll divide stores with you, man for man, and I'll give my affidavit, as before, to speak the first ship I sight, and send 'em here to pick you up. Now you'll own that's talkin'. Handsomer you couldn't look to get. Not you. And I hope, raising its voice, that all hands in this here blockhouse will overhaul my words, for what is spoke to one is spoke to all. Then Captain Smollett rose from his feet and knocked out the ashes of his pipe in the palm of his left hand. Is that all? He asked. Every last word, by thunder, answered Long John. Refuse that, and you'll see the last of me musket balls. Very good, said the captain. Now you'll hear me. If you come but one by one, unarmed, I'll engage to clap you all in irons, and take you home to a fair trial in England. If you won't, my name is Alexander Smollett. I've flown my sovereign colors, and I'll see you all to Davy Jones. You can't find treasure, and you can't sail the ship. There's not a man amongst you to fit to sail the ship. If you can't fight us, Gray, got away of 5 of you. Your ship's in irons, Master Silver. You're on a lee shore, so you'll find. I stand here to tell you so, and they're the last good words you'll get from me. For, in the name of heaven, I'll put a bullet to your back when I meet you. Tramp, my lad, bundle out of this, please, hand over hand, in double quick. Silver's face was a picture. His eyes started in his head with a wrath, and he shook the fire out of his pipe. Give me a hand up, he cried. Not I, returned the captain. Who'll give me a hand up? He roared. Not a man among us moved, growling the foulest imprecautions. He crawled along the sand till he got a hold of the porch and could hoist himself up again upon his crutch. Then he spat to the ground. There, he cried. That's what I think of ye. Before an hour's out, I'll stow your old blockhouse in a rum's punchin'. Laugh, by thunder, laugh! Before an hour's out, you'll laugh upon the other side. And them that'll die be the lucky ones. And with a dreadful oath, he stumbled off, and plodded down the sand, and help across the stockade. After 4 or 5 failures by the man with the flag of truce, and disappeared an instant afterwards among the trees.